free, thank goodness. It is also 12. Just from like a marketing standpoint, you guys. Fugu horchata cold brew coffee cocktail. Perfectly combined horchata, cinnamon, and vanilla notes with our 6 times distilled, 15 times filtered fugu vodka. That just seems unnecessary. Along with crisp, medium-bodied roasted coffee, while traditionally a morning favorite, it's our own spirited spin on a cold brew coffee. Yum.
Morning favorite. Huh?
Can I just say, by the way, I have so much respect for the people that write those.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
There was a guy, I remember...
Poetry.
I remember distinctly, because it had such an impression on me. About 4 or 5 years ago, I was updating some app on my phone, and I read the update notes for, I want to say it was Yelp?
Yeah.
Or something like that. And it was, like, legitimately entertaining. And it was long. Like, there was so much there, and the guy was like who, or guy or girl, whoever was writing it, that's...
Yeah.
and sexist of me. I apologize.
Exposed yourself there, didn't you?
Yeah. Oops. But I remember I posted about it. I think I tweeted or something about it. Nobody cared, but it was just great. I like those situations where you really lean into doing a good job when you know, like, it's the Easter egg kind of thing. You know, like that only people that are paying attention are going to see it. It's not like you're going to win a Pulitzer because you wrote an entertaining update note for one update when you update your app.
But it's attention to detail,
every 4 or 5.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
I can't tell you how many times I've gotten people who reply because of my opt-out sentence.
Yes.
Which they're all like they're different, and there are Easter eggs because I write them and then I forget about them until somebody will comment and be like, "Does that say?" If I opt out, it may be a detonator. Is that what that says? We don't know. I wrote that once and then I forgot it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen some opt-out notes that were kind of cleverly written as well, or not opt-out, update notes.
Yeah. We did that. We did that for a client one time. We wrote a bunch of those for the opt-outs, and they were in a series of like 6 emails. They were all different, and they got. I mean, it's those kinds of things, and it's not just necessarily like there was a strategy there to get people to like think about what they were doing instead of just be like, oh, I don't like these emails, but being thorough because that's who you are. You know what I mean? Because that's the brand. That's what you're trying to do. Anyway, I think that to take that much pride in that kind of writing. Yeah. I think it makes a big difference.
For sure.
Just to close the loop on this delicious Cutwater Spirit review, it's really good. It tastes like a coffee stout. That's what I'm getting. I mean, I come from a beer background. You guys want to try it?
I'm okay. Thank you.
I enjoy it. It like takes me back to my beer days, is what it does. But I am also conscious of its potency. Like that's not lost on it. Sometimes you're like, boy, this doesn't even taste alcoholic. That's not what I would say about this. Yeah.
Well, at 12%, I don't think you can avoid it that much.
Speaking of, you mentioned, was there a loose end we need to tie up, or are we ready to transition to a different topic?
I'm ready.
I think loose ends have been tied.
Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned Easter eggs.
Yes.
And I don't know if I thought about messaging you guys or I actually did.
You told us last time that you were thinking about doing some sort of Easter egg thing.
Yes.
On different pages.
Okay. Yeah, so I have this vision, which I don't know if it... I'll just explain it. I want to hide things in my membership area or in my content, in my body of content. I want to like hide things. And like assign some sort of progression to it. Can you imagine you're watching a video and like the like closing bumper happens and then you're like, oh wait, why is there an extra 45 seconds on this video? And like, like a hidden track on a CD or whatever. Yeah. You like click forward, and there's some sort of message or some sort of nugget or some sort of whatever, and it says like 4 of 15. And you're like, wait, what? There are how many of these things? Like that sort of concept. Yeah. I want there to be like a Nick Cage National Treasure style like scavenger hunt throughout the Monkeypod site that is like, I don't know, just fun, but like encourages them to watch these videos and like go look for these like different hidden nuggets. I don't know what it would. I haven't seen anything like that in our space. Honestly, but I think it's a clever way to like encourage people to go like spend time there. And I don't know if it would like if they would earn stuff or like find something like it just whether it's information that's hidden or like hidden pages or whatever.
I think we should do like a whole hidden module that's like a ton of good stuff. That's just like it's easy for us to put together, but it's good content that we can put together on what you do with content creation or blog post writing or stuff like that. And then people just they get to fall 15 and 15, and it's like. Da, da, da.
That's
You have unlocked the secret module, and nobody knows about it. And then suddenly someone sees it, and they're like, "Have you guys seen the secret module?"
Yeah.
And it's like, "There's a secret module."
Have you ever played like a video game that you get badges of some sort, and you like earn a badge you didn't know was a badge? You're like, wait, what did I like? I like unlocked some hidden achievement.
I distinctly remember PlayStation 1 playing a game called Crash Bandicoot.
Oh yeah,
Anyone play that?
I remember Crash
Okay.
Bandicoot. Yeah.
Anyway, there was this. The game was built where there was kind of like how Mario 64 was, where you can run around and then you run into the level and then it starts level. So there's like this space before you go into level that you can still explore and
Got it.
going. So there's in one of the before you run into the level areas, there was a polar bear there, and like I remember just like wondering like what is this polar bear doing here, and I would like jump on it and like spin on it, and sometimes for like a really long time because it would react and like do things, and I spent way too much time like poking this character that was could have been just like a piece of furniture essentially in the game, but eventually I like did some sort of correct combo of jumping on him, and this is more advanced than what we're talking about, but I ended up getting
that's exactly what I'm talking about.
like
Polar bears. And
like I ended up getting like 100 extra lives or something because I like bothered this bear enough in like whatever the order of operations was for it. Whoa! It was one of the coolest things. I was like, whoa! Nobody's gonna know about this.
Right. So help me. I mean, not right this second, but like think. Like let's brainstorm those as like what. Like the end of a video, like you keep watching, like all right, like that. I wouldn't want to do that in multiple places because like once you've done that, people are like, oh, I know to look for it, right?
Right.
But I there are a couple of these types of things in my marketing where like if you sign up for my blog a second time, you get a different email. And it's like, hey, I'm having deja vu. Like, haven't we been here before? Like that sort of thing.
Right, yeah.
And I get people who will reply to that and are like, how did you do that?
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, well, you already had this tag, so it's like a decision. And it's not.
And do you reply? Why did you sign up again for my blog with the same email?
Yeah. Well, it says like did you forget, or like some people there's a series of emails you get and they just want those emails again.
Do you,
So the email says like, hey, if you just want to like get like the stuff, click here and I'll like send you through it again.
Can we wait a week and then send them links to like memory loss centers? And
Yeah. Well, but that's what I'm thinking is like there's a video on my homepage when you log into the membership site and there's a dismiss button, right?
yeah.
And I'm wondering if there's a way to like once you dismiss the video, like to give them a button that's like to restore it, but it's instead of like bringing that video back, it brings like a different version of that video, like create like a cycle where if they
Hide, restore,
if they do the right number of the right combination of things or watch the same thing, something different happens or they get access to something different. I don't know. Whenever I think about stuff like this, part of me is like, oh, that's brilliant and fun and like you should totally go do it right now. Stop everything you're doing and go work on it. And then the other part of me is like,
How many people are going to see
you're
this?
running a damn business, Greg. Like focus. How does this serve you? And like it's not a revenue generating thing, but it could be an engagement driver and like a conversation starter and like I don't know. I think that there's probably justification.
I think
for
the
it.
long-term value,
for sure.
yeah, I think the long-term value of that from a brand perspective, I think far, well, we don't know yet, but it seems like it would outweigh the cost of setting it up, especially
I'm drunk
because,
now, by the way.
Jesus.
Quick.
That's where these ideas come from. Getting wasted, and that's where all the good stuff comes out. Yeah, you are already. I mean, Monkeypod is already known for content, for help, for like community. But I feel like that is more of the same. You know, in the same vein of like.
I feel like it's on brand as far as like personality goes,
Yeah.
and like tongue-in-cheek kind of humor and stuff, and clever like little quirks. So, yeah, I want to do it. What I want is like feedback as to what would make and like is it 15 things or 50 things, and like is it what's the point of it? Is there an outcome that it reveals something? Like that's what I want help shaping. So not today necessarily, but like just think about
Let's
that.
shoot it right now.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I love the
I
idea.
think it's a good idea. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of cool stuff. We could even do some stuff with, like I don't know. We've talked about some of like the OG premium stuff, and maybe some of the stuff that I've talked about maybe doing there. You could just that could be what gets unlocked.
Yeah.
You know, like
Oh yeah.
resources
I see.
or like
Yeah,
some
yeah, yeah.
videos or maybe some of those like
So that it's like actually valuable. I was
Right.
thinking just like information, which like isn't not that it's not valuable, but like it's up to them to decide like what they're going to do with it. But
Right.
like access to stuff.
Or we cut like I'm not even joking about this. You know, you've all seen Ready Player One.
I actually haven't seen it yet.
I have also not seen. Ready
Oh,
Player
cool.
One.
So
See you
Fun
guys.
story.
Well, Ready Player One.
yeah, go on.
The concept is that there's 3 keys that you have to find in order to. There's challenges where you get keys, and then when you gather the keys, you become the owner of the realm, which is the Oasis, and which is the like the whole concept of Ready Player One.
Okay.
And
Spoiler,
in
but-
each
Yeah.
and each key that you find in the movie, probably in the book too, the guy who created the Oasis kind of appears and like gives you the next clue, and gives you kind of a little quip about like how your journey is going.
Mm-hmm.
You could do something like that with yourself
Ooh.
too, and you wouldn't. Maybe I'm not saying we have to animate it because I bring that all back, but it would be a really cool way to like do an animated version of Greg who pops up and says like, "You found another key." You know what I mean?
He's British for some reason.
Yeah.
He comes up like yoga pose. and,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
The beard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there could be something
Yeah,
fun like
definitely,
that.
definitely.
And then like maybe you do a little like scavenger hunt type thing, and you like point them somewhere else to where the next type of thing is. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea.
Stealing from Hollywood.
So Infusionsoft has the Sudoku Easter egg. Legend has it that there are others. That's the only one I've seen. Do you know of any others? Is there a?
The only one I know of is the shortcut keys
No, I meant
from the
like
dates.
yeah,
like
Easter
something
egg,
to
Easter
do.
egg.
yeah.
That's not.
I meant something that they like planted in there that like yeah.
The only thing I know about is the Sudoku
I
one.
thought there was a like a tic-tac-toe or like a checkers or like a different like not Sudoku but like a different game. No, doesn't ring a bell.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not that I know of.
Doesn't matter. I just figured with your decade plus experience. By the way, I just finished formatting the
Oh,
blog post.
I gotta hop out for a second. I'll be
good.
back.
It's all good.
Do you think?
Burp.
Do you think, bruh? That was actually fun to rewrite that, redo that
Yeah.
presentation that way because I reformatted it completely the way that I was approaching it.
Brett and I were talking about, I forget where we started, but like tips for communicating with Infusionsoft support, like how to like maximize like
yeah.
the experience.
We
you
brought
get
it up
with
last
them.
time we had lunch because Mike
That's
was
what it
saying,
was. Yeah,
You brought up people
asking
say-
questions is an art. And
Yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Remember I
Josh,
did
you
the-
probably
the
know a thing or
Frizo.
two about that.
I know
Yeah.
a thing or two about it.
Yeah.
That is for sure.
Yeah, I remember because we used to talk about that at the Frank Kern events.
Yeah, all
I did
the
a whole
time.
Frizo. Yeah.
So he wrote it as a blog post, and I just like read it and edited it. Was that?
Reddit it.
Jeez.
Reddited it.
Read it and edited it, and it's scheduled to go live on Monday.
I think you did. Yeah, Reddited it.
Yeah, but it sounded like I was just mumbling. It just sounded like a... Okay, and yeah, it's like it's been on my mind because maybe since that conversation, or maybe because I've been working on this blog post, I've been noticing more and more. Like, I genuinely want to help. That's a big part of like where Monkeypod gets fodder for our blog, but also like brand awareness and like prospects. Like it's just answering questions out there. But people need to. There's measures that people can take to make themselves more helpable, you know?
Right.
And like you set yourself up for success if you provide a question with like specifics and context, and you set yourself up for like no replies if you just vent, or if
Right,
you
right,
just,
right.
pose a question that you think is like what you need without adding, what's behind it. So I've been hyper conscious of that, and like I forget what they call it, when you are like aware of something so you see it more. It's not a cognitive bias, but it's
I don't know what it's called, but I know what
you
you're
know the
talking
term, like
Yeah,
There
your
is
friend
a-
buys a
That's a
PT
yellow
Cruiser,
car,
and then
yeah.
like all you see are PT Cruisers or whatever. So I forget. Yeah, it doesn't matter. But maybe because of our conversation at lunch or because of your blog post, I've been hypercritical of like the questions that I see. In sometimes like in the Monkeypod membership group, I like have the time. I could justify spending time like asking clarifying questions and like driving it towards a solution. But for the other places that I like to hang out, the ICP group or the open user group or like the community forums, if I see a question and it's like I don't have all the information I need to gauge like, is this the type of thing that I'm going to come back to, or if it's like I want to go test this, but like I'm unclear on like the variables of based on what they provided. Yeah. So anyway, I think the blog post is timely, and I think it's going to be one of those pieces that like has sticking power because like it's
applicable
right. It's
outside
not
of
going to
just-
be obsolete. Like there's nothing's going to change.
Right.
It's going to be like, oh, that's no longer applicable.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And
By
it's
the
also
way,
not
it's not
unique to
Infusionsoft,
Infusionsoft.
yeah,
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah, knowing how to ask questions is important.
Yeah.
It's called the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon.
That's what. It's right on the tip of my tongue. Yeah.
That's for all of you that are curious. Bader-Meinhof.
All right.
Okay.
What did
speaking-
you search to find that?
This is what I love about Google. I literally searched. Let's see if I can get to this.
What's it called when you see things you think you see?
There has
when
to
you
be
see
another
things
name.
and then
I've-
you, what's it called when you hear something and then see it everywhere? And by the way, Google auto completed that. I got to see something and then it completed to see it everywhere. Google knows.
Listening.
Google knows what's up. Enough
That's
people
true.
ask that question that Google's like, well, that's probably what he's going to go ask. Okay, I want to run an experiment. So about 10 minutes ago, I posted the live link to my Facebook page.
Okay.
I want to see nobody's gotten on, which means nobody cares about me. So I want to see which of us has the
mine's gonna be
most
0.
loyal following. And I know it's going to be Greg.
mine's gonna be
I know it's going to be
Kevin.
Greg, but I want to prove this. So we got to figure out
right.
what's the most scientific. Well, we'll just have you do it, because
I'll share it, but then I want to talk about something that I think that I want people to see.
I think that you.
And not that I don't want people to see what we've talked about, but like I got a specific
Yeah.
I think
concept
you
I
have
want to
earned
address.
the right with your clout to
All
be
right.
able to demand a conversation topic because you're having people come.
Where is it? What am I doing?
Oh.
Where am I finding this link?
You can. It's on. I just posted it to mine, but I'll text it to you. By the way, all of us should go subscribe to the Dude Lunch channel.
Yeah.
Are we married to the name Dude Lunch?
Well, I did already buy the domain, so
Okay. Wait, it's 23 minutes ago. The dudes are live. That one?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can just reshare
We
that.
go back to.
You start from the beginning.
No, sorry. That was. Where am I? What am I?
I don't know what we're talking about.
I got an email that was totally separate about our fantasy basketball league, so I was going to ask Greg a question.
Oh. Gaspy.
Okay. Shared.
Oh, Gatsby.
People who don't know
Yeah.
Gatsby get really concerned when that starts happening. I don't know if
Wick
the
does
camera
that.
can pick
Wick
that
does
up.
that sometimes. Yeah, I think it can.
Okay.
Gatsby's not dying under the table, by the way.
Let's verify. Where will you be able to tell if we have viewers?
Right here.
Okay, so live lunch conversation with some dudes. Monkeypod marketed shared Brett Martineau's post. Oh, that's an interesting still it shows. Me with a cocktail. Okay. Ooh. Here is just. Okay, so here is what I want to talk about, and it's probably not gonna. Let's see. So you guys have heard of Infusionsoft, right? Know a few things about it. And you have worked with enough Infusionsoft customers that you have undoubtedly heard people react when they say, hey, I want it to do X. And the reply is, cool, here's the plugin that does that. And then they groan and they say, you mean I have to buy yet another plugin in order to get Infusionsoft to just do the thing that I want? You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
So I want to talk about plugins and like the attitude towards plugins in. I don't know that it's unique to Infusionsoft's ecosystem, but like specifically, that's the area that I'm most familiar with because I keep having the same conversations with people where they're like, they're frustrated that it doesn't do something, and like we talk about it and we like ask the right questions to understand like, well, what is it that you need it to do and why, and like, and then you think like through the tools, like, all right, can plus this do it? Can my Fusion Helper do it? Can Novak Solutions do it? Can the API guy? Can the funnel bots? Like, there's all these different things, and you're like scouring through your wealth of experience. Zapier, if I plug Zapier into this and like I string the right things together, here we got it to do the thing you want, and then the reaction is like, yeah, but I have to pay for something else. It's like, well, how do you want this to work if you're not willing to like just like, if it's not worth investing in, then what is it you expected? And so I've been all over the map in terms of how I feel about that equation, and I'll share my thoughts, but I wanted to just like, what do you guys think about the plugins? And do you feel like there's generally two reactions? People are either annoyed that they have to pay for something and they feel like gypped again, right? Or people are like, F yes, like I found it. It does. This is awesome. It's so flexible. I love that it integrates with all these things. You're like, they either have one of two reactions. That's what I find. What do you think?
Well, I come from the place that I don't like defend really Infusionsoft.
Okay.
So I don't feel the need to be like, yeah, I know it doesn't do that, but we have that. It's just like, oh, you wanted to do that? Here, we can use this. And it's like, I mean, they can take that and be like, if they say like, oh, I have to pay for another thing, I'm just like, yeah, Infusionsoft doesn't do it. You know, I don't really. And so I'll usually present two options. Like, hey, if you want to like keep using Infusionsoft, we can do, here's a workaround, or we can do, part of it will be manual, you know, whatever.
Sure.
Whatever that looks like, however they were doing it. Or we can get this thing, which will do it, and it'll do it. And you have to pay $29 a month or whatever. And then that's it. I just kind of let them. But that, you know, that's, and I'm like, look, I'll set all that up if you want, but here are
your options.
the options.
So you try to treat it like black and white. Like, how important is this?
Yeah.
If it's
basically,
important.
if you want the solution, we have the solution. If the solution's not worth $29 a month, then it's not worth $29 a month, and we'll keep doing it kind of the way you've been doing it manually. But like, I don't know that reaction of like, oh, but I just want. It's like, okay, well, talk to them. You know, like I don't have.
Right.
You're not paying me so you can complain to me about the software, and
True. It doesn't. Yeah. Like, what do you want? Do you want to bitch about it, or do you want to get it done?
Exactly.
Right.
That's generally my mindset on everything, and I'm, you know, just like, all right, cool. Like you can keep going, but this isn't getting us anywhere. But like.
So what about? All right.
Well, no,
I'll let you get your thoughts in before I color it with my opinion, which is coming. Don't worry.
Well, I'm a little bit biased because I've been in the selling plugins world in a couple of different capacities. One at Plus This, and then second, doing the marketing for Plus This when I was with Ollie.
Okay.
And so I think that the problem is more fundamental and cultural in the Infusionsoft community, and I think a lot of it comes from the way that Infusionsoft was sold for so long.
As an all-in-one solution.
As an all-in-one solution. And so,
magic air quotes.
Yeah, the all-in-one.
It is all-in-one. If all you need are the things it does.
Right, exactly. And we used to actually, a little tongue-in-cheek, we used to sell Plus This as the all-in-one plugin for the all-in-one sales and marketing tool.
Sure.
Because, you know, that was something that we talked about all the time. That was a big thing. Selling Plus This was like, oh, but I got to pay extra. And I think it comes from like that, I don't know, there's like a culture of everything is supposed to do exactly what I want it to.
Right.
And I think it comes from a more fundamental problem, which is something that I've been kind of talking about more myself, which is I think business owners just want to pay for the thing to give them money and not like do work and not realize that it doesn't matter what it is that it costs to get you to the result. What matters is, are you going to get to the result profitably?
Right.
You know what I mean? So anything from
everything is an investment.
Yeah.
All you need to decide is if it is one that will pay an ROI.
Yep.
How important is it to you?
Yeah, how important is it to you that it do the way that you want? And when I approach it, I think I'm similar to Josh. I although black and white, but it's much more black than it is white. Meaning, do it this way. That's the way you should do it.
Yeah.
If you really want it to be terrible and suck and do a bunch of stuff yourself, yeah, you can do it this way. But I think
Jason Hewitt's watching.
Oh, we got two people on.
What up, people?
Check it out. What's up, Jason? I just talked to you today, so I'm excited. Talked to him a couple times today, actually. I mean, anyway.
Don't get distracted.
Yeah, I was totally distracted. So yeah, I think that it's important for business owners to realize that like there's what you want, and then there's the path to get there. And you can either have what you want or you can choose the path, but you can't have both.
Yeah. Fair. I think that the frustration people feel, like it often shows up directed at the plugin. Because they're like, oh, I have to pay X dollars a month to get this other thing that I wanted. Where the reality is it stems from somewhere several months prior or years prior, there was a misaligned expectation. They bought Infusionsoft thinking it had SMS, for example, right? And either someone explicitly told them, yeah, it texts for you, right? You're all good. Or they assumed that it did. And like it didn't occur to them that they have to ask, can it do this thing? And then several months later or years later, when they get down to the nuts and bolts of it and they're setting it up and they've invested how many thousands of dollars in getting going, and then they get to the point where they're like, cool, and then we'll send a text and somebody to either tells them or they discover on their own, yeah, it doesn't do that out of the box. They feel dumb or they feel misled. And that's where the like what I perceive is like anger comes from, is like how somebody's just gonna rip me off for another $75. It's like, no, it's not ripping you off. It's like, if texting is important to you, 60 or 50 or 75, however many dollars a month it costs, that's what it takes, right? And you build off of it. So when I worked at Infusionsoft, and maybe, I don't know, you're too old, but as far as your relationship to Infusionsoft, but
I'm really old too.
but like maybe this will resonate with you. Like I felt guilty, genuinely guilty, recommending third-party tools, and so I didn't. I didn't even like try to learn what was out there because I wanted to just stay contained in the like native walls of the software, which is probably in large part like why I'm pretty good at coming up with creative solutions for stuff internally, because I went out of my way to avoid the plugins that were out there, because I thought as an employee of this company, they're already paying us for the use of this software. How dare I tell them to go spend more of their hard-earned money every single month, you know? And I got sick of like standing up in front of a room full of people and being like, yeah, Infusionsoft's great, but you also need Zapier and plus this and, you know, whatever. And so I didn't. It wasn't until I actually started running a business that I realized you can't do it all with just Infusionsoft, and nor should you. I really used to think of the plugins as, and I actually had this conversation with Bryce from Plus This before I did the event with them. I used to think of the plugins as like, you know, the whale shark, and then there's like those little fish that like swim around next to it and like sort of just like eat whatever like flows out of his mouth or whatever. Like I don't know how they work, but I thought of Infusionsoft as being like this massive like moving thing, and the plugins were like it's not like literal parasites, but they're called parasitic fish, right? That like live off of this other one, and that's what I thought. And that's really not the case. I don't think the Infusionsoft plugin, like market space ecosystem, is parasitic at all. I think it's like the Avengers, where like Infusionsoft is one of the Avengers, but like it's more powerful with the other Avengers. And none of these plugins would exist if they didn't solve a problem. Every single one of them is there because enough people said, I need this thing, and somebody smart and capable and driven said, I'll go create it, right? Like that's the only reason. And so what I think what people struggle with is they feel exposed when they realize that it doesn't do all the things that they thought it could do. And I wish I could give them like the emotional journey I've been through in terms of the way I think about this has taken like years for me to like mature and like grow to respect and then eventually appreciate the tools that are out there. So when I see somebody who's frustrated, I wish I could like fast track them on that process, and I don't have an answer for it. But that's part of why I wanted to have this conversation, is like how do we shorten that learning curve? How do we take somebody who and like get them we see it as black and white. Like, you either want it or you don't.
Right.
Here it is. How important is it to you? Nobody's making you sign up for these, but if it's important, then you should sign up for it, right? Like, so how do we, I guess, get people to that point more quickly? And I think the answer, or at least one answer, is like, get the expectation alignment closer to the point of purchase, so that there's like less of a window, and ideally before purchase, tell them exactly what it takes. But in order to do that, they need to know what questions to ask. They need to know, like, they may not have asked, is text messaging included, because they didn't know that was a question they needed to ask. So there's like, unfortunately, there's a bunch of variables that go into like how that relationship is developed.
Well, I also think that there's there's a lot of tactical questions that aren't brought up at the beginning, like when you're going into like whether you're going to get Infusionsoft or not, that are brought up later, because I think there's also a culture of confusing tactics with strategy. And so you think, oh, you go to a conference, or you watch a webinar, or you whatever.
Sure.
Someone says you got to use text messages. Great, I got to do it. You've been thinking about it for a while. Oh, I'm pretty sure somebody said I can do text messaging with Infusionsoft, and you go after it, and then you find out you can't. You got to get something else, and that becomes a sticking point, an issue. But if you knew what your strategy was from the beginning, then you could, everything fits as you're building out your whole like the strategy for what you're going to do with your business. Like when we were with Frank. This is another good example, because when we were with Frank, they got Infusionsoft, they got Plus This, they got Megaphone, and they got, what else did they get? There was some other app, I think there was one other thing that they got.
What they use for webinars.
Stealth.
Oh,
Stealth.
Did we get them Stealth?
We didn't
They
get
have to
them
get
Stealth.
it,
No,
yeah.
and we didn't get them anything.
Yeah, that's right.
What we did is
Parsi.
we said, Parsi was one, yeah.
Yeah, that's another great one.
Yeah.
That we didn't even mention.
Yeah.
You know?
Shout out to Jared.
And Dustin.
And Dustin, everybody. Jared, anyway, whatever. I put my foot in it so many times today. I'm going to keep putting my foot in
Fun
it.
fact, I have disc golfed with those guys, and they're both solid disc golfers.
Oh,
Yeah.
who would have thought?
Props
I
to
know.
you for knowing what a solid disc golfer is versus not solid disc golfer.
Well, I've also disc golfed with Michael, not a solid disc golfer.
Touche.
Okay.
But we weren't selling Infusionsoft can text message. We weren't selling Infusionsoft. We weren't selling anything. We were selling, do you want to do campaigns like Frank? Here's how you do it.
Yeah.
And it was the
Right.
whole, it was a
Here's,
strategic thing.
Oh, that's a good point. So,
You know
like,
what I mean?
here's
It
my
was the whole thing.
toolkit. Yeah.
Here's
That is a
everything.
good point, because people will be like, "Oh, I know Greg uses Infusionsoft, and I've gotten a text from him, so
Yeah.
I'm going to get Infusionsoft."
Yeah.
And it's like, "Hey, how'd you send that text?" Like, "Well, I used something else." And they're
So I
like,
wonder if
"Shoot."
some of the like expectations come from that type of experience. It's like you see somebody who's used Infusionsoft and you forget to ask, like, well, what else?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like what was the
How is this
stack,
done?
so
Yeah.
to speak,
Yeah,
right?
what's the stack? Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
The stack is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Kind of like,
Yeah.
'cause it's- yeah.
And the
Almost
thing
Do you
is,
guys
in those-
listen to Kelsey's podcast at all?
I mean, I
Yeah.
listened to your episode of mine.
Okay, so one thing that I like that he does is he'll ask people, like when you mention
Yeah.
a website, he's like, "Well, what plugins?" And he'll just like ask, "And what's your tech stack? Like, what are your like?" He wants to know, like, because
Yeah.
he understands, like, it's not just one,
Right.
right? It's not
Right.
like I built a website on WordPress.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like what went into that, right?
He did ask me specifically about webinars and Demio.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm actually trying out Demio right now.
Yeah, I heard.
Which
I
is
listened to
pretty
yours.
sweet, yeah. So shout out to Kelsey's podcast, episodes 33, 31, and 32.
That's right. That's right. Back to back. And episode 4 or something, whatever my first episode
Oh
was.
yeah. But yeah, I think that I'm big on, and I think it fits with this conversation because I'm big on you pick the destination, and while there are sometimes little trails you can blaze and there are ways you can go, you don't really get to choose the path between here and there. You just go, right? And it is what it is. And I think I think that the community
It's too rich, is what it
That's
is.
what it is. Yeah. That's exactly
rich?
What it is.
I'm
So you
like,
get through
I'm
half the
about,
can.
I'm about whatever that line is, and I'm like painting my mouth with it, but it's good.
That was my exact
love you,
experience.
Cutwater.
What did I say? Yeah, it's like the first sip.
They
you're
just
like,
need to.
Dude, this
They
is
just need to put it in like the
incredible."
small, like the little
Yeah.
mini Coke cans.
And then you get down, and by
Yeah.
the end of it, you're kind of like, "Ooh, man."
Yeah. Okay, I cut you off. Sorry about that.
Cut you off.
I Cutwater you off.
Sponsored by Cutwater you off. No, I think that
The path.
In general, I think that we need to tone it down on the emotion in this community, especially. And I'm talking to the Infusionsoft
Yeah.
community. I feel like there's too much entitlement. Like
So-
I feel like I feel like people are saying too much. Oh, I pay so much for this.
Yeah.
It should do everything. And it's like, no, that's not what.
Yeah,
like,
but let's unpack that, right? I pay so much for it, which is like a genuine sentence that people have
Yeah.
said or felt. How much is so much? And compared to what, you know?
Right.
And then it should do everything. that's subjective.
Why?
Yeah, what to whom?
Yeah.
What is everything,
Right,
right? Like for
right.
everything, for everyone, for every
Right.
business, that's just unrealistic.
Right.
But the problem is that like it's not our job to give people that answer, and I sort of feel like a dick when I do it. And so I see these questions where people are like, "Great." And it makes me not want to help them. It makes me not want to offer advice because I'm like, great, do I want to be the guy that recommends yet another tool that they're going to be pissed that they have to buy, even though it does exactly what they want it to do?
Right. Right.
And that's where I feel like the problem is like, as a user base, as a community, I want to hold people accountable and I want to have like a tough conversation that I think will ultimately make them better. But all it really does is like make me the person who gives them the bad news,
Right.
you know, or
Right.
us or you or him. Like I just don't think there's like no healthy way to address it at this point.
Right. Well, and especially because in those situations where somebody is frustrated, you ever tried to call them out, and have they ever like been humble about it?
Thanks. Good point. I was being a baby, you know. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. No,
right.
you're right. You're publicly. It's hard because.
But I also get why they're upset
yeah.
Sure.
That's
because
yeah.
they didn't see it coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
But whose job is it to tell them ahead of time? It's like when my first job out of college, I was a contractor. I was 1099, installing and servicing draft beer systems for a business that I was like starting with a friend of mine, and I didn't know that I was going to be accountable at the end of the year for the money that I made. Like I didn't know that 1099 meant tax wasn't withheld for me. I'm 22 years old at the time. So
Right.
the end of the year comes around and I get a bill for what I owe for taxes, and I just was like, what? And I go to my business partner and I say like, what am I supposed to, I don't have, I forget, it was like $4,000 or something. I was like, I don't have $4,000. I still barely have. And he's like, Greg, like I feel for you, but you're an adult. Like, am I supposed to like do your taxes for you? Like, it wasn't my job to tell you like what 1099 means. And like, I think like the tricky part was like we were friends also, and so like there was like a semblance of like obligation for like this is your buddy. Like, don't set me up to fail.
Right.
Yeah.
But like in this circumstance, like you have to look out for yourself. And as a business owner, you got to think like, what are all the things I need, and then line item them, and then ask like, does it do this? Cool, show me.
Yeah.
Right? Because like the sales rep you're talking to is not the most reliable resource. They've got their own agenda, right? And like not to their own detriment. They may not know. I think a lot of Infusionsoft sales reps think Infusionsoft does things it doesn't do.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I don't think they're like lying to people even
Right.
though they are. I think that they genuinely misunderstand like what's
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
Because same
Not a-
sort of
not a
thing.
news
They know
thing, yeah.
Frank does XYZ or whoever.
Right, exactly. I think that's probably the best way you could possibly put it is, I feel for you, but you're an adult.
Yeah.
Like,
But you're running a business.
You're running a
there's
business.
Yeah,
gonna be
right.
more
You know what I
stuff
mean?
that comes your way that's a lot worse than this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're like getting this shook up over this, like what are you gonna do when a customer like
Yeah.
sues you for like
Right.
something like
Right.
something bad is gonna
Yeah.
happen that's a lot like you just gotta kind of take it head on and be like, look, we have to
And if you take emotion out of it, because I think it's
Yeah.
a heavily emotional conversation, people are like, what? 75 more and 65 more, and where does it stop? Because they don't know, you
right,
know?
Right.
But if you take emotion out of it and you say, cool, it's $60 a month, and this is what you get in return. You get the ability to send, text messages, and like, what would that do for your business? And you start to like break it down, it makes a lot of sense. And then you
Yeah.
can justify it. But if you don't dig into the conversation and don't like contextualize it with ROI numbers, it just feels like, it's stressful. But as soon as you look at it on paper and you're like, well, yeah, the webinar tool is going to create X number of dollars in new revenue for us. Did I say webinar tool?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to create X number of dollars in new revenue for us. Like, we can't not invest
Right.
in it, right? Like,
Yeah.
it becomes a point where you're like, all right, I get the game. And then everything from there is just like on a bigger and bigger scale. It's like you only choose tools that are having a positive impact, either in time saved or in direct revenue.
I think another thing too that gets overlooked a lot, and I think about this and I don't talk about it enough, but it's something that I
God,
think
this
about
is
a lot.
exactly the conversation I wanted to have.
Good. I think another thing that is very important about this conversation is if you are at and I'm speaking generally here, obviously, but it seems to me that if you are paying for Infusionsoft and you're paying for it and you feel that bite every month, you're probably not using it and making money from it.
That's it. If you haven't gotten to the point where Infusionsoft is paying for itself, that's where the pain hurts.
That's where the pain comes from. And it's probably
exactly.
because you're sitting kind of wishing that it would just do it for you, wishing that somehow,
Yeah.
somehow like the car would drive you where you need to go, or somehow like the,
That's a good analogy.
somehow like the, I don't know what else, what other analogy? The only other ones I have are,
Well, it's like if you like bought a car and then you're like, oh, what do you mean I also have to buy insurance? What do you mean I have to put fuel in it? You know,
Yes.
like
Yes.
I have to get the oil changed myself. You know,
right.
If you
Or like I live in California, what, I have to pay so much more than someone else for
right,
my
but,
registration.
But the thing about like vehicles is that those are things people know and understand. Like it's not, they don't tell you that when you buy the car. They're not like just before you buy it.
you're gonna have to buy insurance.
Right, right, like that's just something people understand about it. So I think maybe the nature of this like industry being newer or like, everybody knows someone who has a car.
Yeah.
Not everyone knows someone who has an email marketing software. You
Right,
know,
right. Well, I think that because
Or a CRM
I
or
think
whatever.
part of it comes from the fact that we're all marketers, and because
whether or not you want to be.
yeah, whether or not you want to be, I think that attitude and the fact that Infusionsoft has been a primarily culture and sales driven organization more so than just about anything else, historically speaking.
That's
which
fair.
I don't think that many people at Infusionsoft will be happy that I said that, but I think that it's a fair assessment, and so because it's
They
been,
wouldn't be unhappy that you said it. They would be unhappy that it's true.
Right.
They might be like,
Yeah.
and I think that because of that, and especially because of how much culture has been driven into the ecosystem,
Yeah.
it's all been about we create this culture of like everybody is an expert, and we're trying to like everything's positive, and it's I have my own theories, which I won't get into, about where that comes from, but like it's there's this like no negativity, like let's be positive about everything sort of mentality that I think has translated because of how much the culture has been impressed into the ecosystem with events and with like
Yep.
Infusionsoft going around different places, and then university, not that it's your fault obviously, but getting them to that building and they see everything that's happening,
Yeah,
the open
it's
floor plan,
intoxicating.
the cereal bar, the big balloon animal thing, and the story and all that stuff, which is great, and I do actually like that stuff because it comes from me,
Yeah.
and from my family, so that's great.
Sure.
But I think that
Stan, right?
yeah. Shout out to the Groove
The
Star.
OG.
Yeah, he is the original OG. I think that has created this environment where you've got people that are trying to be very positive about everything and not really approach these kinds of conversations head on, like, and just say, no, this is what it is, and like own up to it and lean into it. And then the counterculture to that is people that get frustrated with that and go the complete opposite way.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like the reaction to that sort of positive vibe, salesman, like everything's good, yeah, like rah rah kind of thing,
Right.
is like the sort of pessimistic ho hum, like everything's terrible, but I'm not going to get away from Infusionsoft because I know that it's the most powerful tool that there is, and I'm not going to just leave. And so you've got like this, I think, there's two sides of the same,
Dichotomy.
the dichotomy of that core beast. But I think that the culture that's been driven so hard is to it's both to blame and to credit for like the good and the bad. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's both sides of the same coin.
I had a little bit of guilt as an Infusionsoft employee about the culture. Like people would come to visit our building, and like I ended up giving tours, just because there weren't enough people to do that, and like I wanted people wanted to see the office. They come for Infusionsoft University, and I'm like, all right, well, it's lunch, let's do a tour. In my 15 minutes between the 4 hours of presenting in the morning and the 4 hours of presenting in the afternoon, why not? But I felt a little bit of guilt being like, and here's the game room, because a lot of these people like, Infusionsoft is their livelihood. It's
Yeah.
like this is running my business, and like, you guys are playing ping pong. Like there's bugs. It's
And
software.
how many people are in there right now?
Not well. I never once played a video game at Infusionsoft. Like
Yeah.
there was
Never went in the game room.
right. Like it was a novelty that it was there. I think we booked meetings in there once in a while, but like some people did.
Yeah.
Some people would go hang out in there. But like when I would tour customers around our office, I felt like just like it's cool that we have cereal. It's cool that there's a library, but like there's important things that, like the software doesn't do or doesn't do well or like could be better, and like where's the focus really? And like I get you need to have happy employees, take care of your customers better. So like there's a balance, but I always felt like a little bit of like, I don't know, like privilege, like how You know,
Like the balance between that was kind of swung a little bit in the like rah culture direction instead
right,
of
right. And like we looked, like you look at the ceiling, and there were these banners. There were literal like championship banners for like the years that we had like hit these like revenue goals, and it was 26, and then like 40, and then 63 or something like that. Like substantial growth. And I remember looking at those and being like, do I really want to tour our customers around and be like, look how much money we made off of you guys, you know?
Yeah.
But the truth is, like, that revenue allowed us to hire more developers, which allowed us to fix more. Like, the revenue, like, is what fuels this machine. Like, what is it? Gary Vee says, cash is like the oxygen, right?
Yeah.
It's like that's how your business breathes. So that's how I justified it. But even like I always felt like I never talked about it until now. But like I always felt like a little uncomfortable giving those tours because like I know the people who are there are like, how could you not question? Like they're shooting Nerf darts when they should be taking support calls or whatever. Like how
Right.
could you not? How do you not make that connection?
Right. And I think one thing too is we talk about, we kind of edge our way a little closer and closer into some of like our past at being at Infusionsoft. I have always held very strong that the leadership of Infusionsoft is legitimately trying to do everything it can to move the software in the right direction based on what they know and what they can see.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And sometimes again, just like what I was saying before, you pick a goal, you want to get to the top of Mount Everest, well, guess what? You got to go through some pretty hard places to get there. You got to get to base camp, then you got to do the scale, you got to do the ascent,
Right.
get all the way to the top, and then you got to get yourself back down. And if that's the goal, if that's what you're after, you don't get to like if you're going to get to the top of Mount Everest, there's one way to do it.
Yeah.
And that's to go up Mount Everest. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
some days are rough and some days are hard, but there's that's the path that you're going to take. And so I feel like Infusionsoft proper takes a lot of flack. Some as a whole deserved, but I think that in general there is a lot of like the direction that Infusionsoft is going. There's a lot of people like forecasting doom and gloom, and I think that there's a lot of stuff there that happens behind the scenes that we don't know about. But
We should definitely do some wild speculating about Infusionsoft's future on a future episode.
oh, we will.
I think
we
that's,
will. Yeah,
that's
we'll make
a fun
lists.
conversation.
We'll
yeah.
make lists. It'll be fun, especially considering some of the conversations that have been happening in fairly public forums of late.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think to your point, there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more behind the scenes, and it's hard to sometimes justify that in order because you don't see how the end is how the end is
Right.
brought about by what you're giving. Sometimes it can be hard to be like, wait, they play this will date me, but wait, they play Unreal Tournament on Fridays at 2:30, like for like 6 hours,
Yeah.
because that's what we need to do to unwind. Like those kinds of things. But I remember that at that time, that was it was a team building thing. We all really enjoyed it, and I mean,
Fucking Dave.
I know, Dave for the win. Anyway, I think there's levels to it. And there's a lot of stuff that people just don't consider. But that goes back to what we were talking about
Yeah.
before. There's just a lot.
My
that's happening.
the way I think about it is like, yeah, I wholeheartedly believe in Clayt and Scott and their vision, and so it's like if they're the ones leading this ship or trek to Everest, whatever, like I don't need to agree with every step. What I need to agree with is, are we generally going the right direction? Are we at a higher altitude? Have we started to like climb,
Right.
or elevation? Like, are we moving the right direction? And if we are, then my qualms with how we're doing it are less concerning, right? And so, because they're not the individual. Like it disseminates down from there, and so there's always like, the more people you get involved, the opportunity for misdirection or misinterpretation goes up. And so I've always felt like a little conflicted, but then you come back to like the overall mission and strategy and like, are we moving the right direction? And largely, I think the answer has always been yes.
Yeah.
So let's put a bow on it. Plugins they're not going anywhere. Infusionsoft's ecosystem is only going to thrive as Infusionsoft continues to grow. Like opportunities just shift in terms of what's available and what people need and what's provided. What I wanted to get out of this conversation was like a healthy perspective on the role that plugins play, because I think there's a lot of Infusionsoft users who cast them in a predatory or negative light, and I struggle. I think I'm too diplomatic sometimes, but I think that's a victim mentality, and I don't think it's in your best interest. And if you, like me, have felt that way, then let maybe this be your turning point, or your kick in the pants to
Stop
say
it.
Yeah, it's
It's hard for me to be empathetic with when people are have that. I'm just kind of well, I mean, they're not. This exists for a reason, because you want this. Everyone wants this solution.
It's been a transition for me, so I am empathetic with it, because I felt that way. I felt like these plugins, how dare they insert themselves and jump in and do this thing that Infusionsoft should do.
Yeah,
but I've come full circle on it.
See, I can see you having the animosity toward Infusionsoft though, Infusionsoft doesn't do it, but I don't from the other companies. I don't know. Because they're always from my perspective, it's well, yeah, of course they are, because
I just
Infusionsoft
felt
doesn't.
right,
so
right,
they're yeah,
right.
we'll
But remember, I my relationship, and I felt like my obligation was to our customer base, and when the customers continued to say that they felt preyed on, I felt protective of them, because these are the predators. I adopted that mentality that I think I inherited from our customers. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying that that's where I think it came from. And I felt like they were being nickel and dimed. I felt like another $5 or $10 or $15 for this little, sync or add-on or whatever.
And I guess I would understand that.
I think it's more you feel like the plugins are opportunistic. Hopping on
which they are, but doesn't inherently make them evil or bad. That's the transition that it took me a while to make.
I think that would make a lot of sense to me if Infusionsoft owned all the plugins. And was
they were let's sell them another thing. Yeah, that's an add-on feature.
Hey, do you want this bag? Do you want this?
Great point. Great point.
All right, but these are other companies that are hey, they don't do it, but we'll do it.
So think about it this way: what if Spirit Air was yeah, we don't do baggage, and then another company was we'll ship your bag, but it's an extra $10.
I'd be F you, Spirit, do it. But this company,
that's how customers feel, though, is F you, Infusionsoft.
Yeah, which I understand.
Oh, you're saying why are they upset about the plugin?
Yeah, why are they upset at the plugin companies?
Yeah, I think their frustration is just
they're just
so
this equation's broken.
It's omnidirectional frustration.
Yeah. Can you imagine that? If you show up at the airport, they're yeah, get on, Josh. We don't do bags.
Yeah, we can't. Your bags basically don't.
That guy, okay, Spirit's bags. We're not getting sponsored by Spirit.
No. Oh, that's good. No, I think that's a good conversation.
Yeah, I wanna. This has been on my mind for a while, but I haven't written a blog about it or done a YouTube video about it or anything, because I haven't really known how to address it in a productive way that didn't sound like I was scolding people, because that's not the look I want. I want to be everything. I want everything I do to be helpful for people, but I also want it to be well received. I don't want it to be abrasive or inflammatory. And I feel so when these conversations come up and it can't help as you're proposing solutions to people, they're either going to respond as great, I'm glad there is a solution,
right,
or they're going to respond with, God damn it, another
plugin.
Yeah.
Well, luckily now you've got this venue where you can be diplomatic as always, and we'll be the ones that are abrasive.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah. We'll give it to people straight, the way that we are.
Do you guys remember that project I did with the African Leadership University? Have I told you about that at all? Okay, great. So we're all good friends. This is a year or two ago. They were an Icon finalist. Doesn't even ring a bell. J-Mac worked there. African what?
Which Icon?
Icon 2017. Year and a half ago. Doesn't matter. It's a network of universities in Africa. We implemented Infusionsoft for them, and they launched an MBA program and built a physical campus. It's a really interesting project. I can't believe I haven't told you about it. What's my point? So Infusionsoft flew a team of 4 people to Mauritius, which, if you aren't aware, is an island in the Indian Ocean off of 500 miles east of Africa, of Madagascar.
I was not aware.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't until I worked with them. But so Infusionsoft flew 4 people there to interview the marketing team that we had helped train using the Monkeypod content, and to capture tens of hours, dozens of hours of footage, and what was your business beforehand? What role does Infusionsoft play? What impact has it had? Like to like contextualize their success story, so that as an Icon finalist, they could be like, hey, look at this business that's done these awesome things, right? We didn't end up winning the Icon finalist contest. Someone else. This was the same year that Kickstagram was in it. Yeah.
I wasn't there.
Okay. But they never really did anything with the footage. Infusionsoft, like, canned Icon the next year. So, like, there was no, like, normally they use the previous year's footage to, like, promote and stuff, and, like, this never really, just, like, never did anything. The reason I know this is because they came out to San Diego and they interviewed me as well. I was the partner that, like, worked on this project, and so I remember, like, doing these interviews and being, like, really excited to see this story told, because it was a really powerful project with, like, really impressive results. So, long story long at this point. I reached out. I've been like badgering Infusionsoft, like, hey, can I have that footage? Can I buy that footage? I want to create a case study from it. Like, I'll pay for the editing. Like, just give me the stuff you shot. It deserves to be seen. I think it can serve people. And so, like 2 weeks ago, they were like, all right, let's make this work. So I got the footage, and yesterday I started watching it, and it was like this emotional roller coaster for me. I actually like teared up a couple different times just hearing like these people and students talk about like the impact this university has and like the role Infusionsoft has played in multiplying this. But one specific interview, like, is probably what spurred this conversation today, is talking to this guy. His name is Sam Darko, and he's the director, or was the director of marketing prior to Infusionsoft, and then JMac was hired on, and like they sort of split roles, and he did undergrad and JMac did MBA program. And Sam, they commented, they were like, well, what is your favorite feature about Infusionsoft? And he said, the API. And they were like, what do you mean? And he's like, Infusionsoft can connect to whatever you want. And he like just so confidently was like, yeah, it's like we use Plevo for text messaging, we use Everlytics for this other thing, we use Eventbrite, and like we can connect whatever we want. It's infinitely flexible. He like was giddy talking about it. And I just remember hearing like, the flip side of that is the other people who are like, I have to pay for Plevo, I have to pay for Zapier to connect to whatever, I have to pay for Eventbrite. And like, yeah, Infusionsoft doesn't do everything, but there's two ways to position that. It's like the quote, like you can complain that like roses have thorns, or you can like celebrate that thorns have roses, right? It's like Infusionsoft has this ability to connect to all these other fucking plugins, and you get to choose how you see that. Yeah. And this guy yesterday, it was like not even a question. He's like, this is the best part to him. And I just thought that was, I don't know, like that's a perspective I wish I could give to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, nobody's going into it. No one's going to answer that question, the API. You know what I mean? Like, as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, this is going to be good.
Yeah, well, and he's not a developer. Like, that wasn't it. He just knows, like, that's the magic key.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the piece that, like, does it's like, if you just have to have these 100 different things, but numbers 101 through 10 million are the API.
Yeah.
So anything that's not one of those 100, that's the other thing. It's like, it's the everything else.
It's like if you if you buy, like, a used, I don't know, I'm gonna venture into a car metaphor that I have no business making, but this is the one that always comes to mind. If you like buy an old late '60s model Ford Mustang, let's say, which is I believe that's a fairly popular model for the car, and you have the car and it's great and it does a bunch of things, and then you decide, no, I want to street race it, right? You're gonna have to do some things to it, right? The car by itself was made in 1968. So it's not necessarily it's not set for that particular use, the exact thing that you're trying to do. So maybe you got to install, this is me just harking back to like Fast and the Furious 1, because I think that's the only one of the videos that I actually watched. You got to like hook up.
What year do you think that was?
Maybe it was 1968, I don't know.
99? 2002?
I bet it. Yeah, maybe
it might have been that long ago, yeah.
Oh, I think that was, I think it was easily
maybe
that
even
long
before
ago.
that. No, probably about then, yeah.
Probably 2000,
that was like early high school, I think, when that...
What year did you graduate?
I graduated in 2006.
I was
2002 would have been early high school for you.
Yeah.
That's about right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember if I was driving when it came out.
Oh, man.
But I don't think I was, so...
Yeah.
So it had a whole other status, like, that's what it's going to be like when I drive.
Yeah.
But so that's even, I didn't even plan on that, but that's even a good point. Like, you see it from the outside and you think, oh, that's what it's like.
Yeah.
You just got to get a cool looking car, and then you like put a little fire burner thing on the back, and then suddenly it goes fast. And it's like,
I have
no.
a friend who has those come out of his hood, and he
Oh,
puts
yeah?
popcorn in them. And he can drive them. They pop out. Yeah.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
But I feel like your story speaks to the point that like in Infusionsoft would be like you take this awesome car, which would be your business, and then you drop like a supercharged engine into it, and now you've got something that's more powerful than whatever you had before, but it still is not going to run on it. Like Infusionsoft by itself is going to do a lot of stuff, right? So maybe that isn't the best example, but like it's got to connect into other pieces for it to be fully functional. Specifically, in fact, actually, this is the metaphor I wanted to use, and I'll just extend it a little bit further. You buy the late 60s model Ford, but what you want to do is hang glide, right? So you buy it for one thing, and it's a powerful engine. Yes, it does all these things, but what you really want, and maybe not hang glide, but those little like single prop, like crop duster planes or whatever. Well, you can do that, but the engine by itself isn't going to do that, and it's a car right. So you might have to change some things, but going into it, like you wouldn't. It sounds funny making the connection that like if you buy a Ford Mustang and then you want to turn it into a plane, you can do that. It's like we used to. Do you ever convert old lawnmower motors into go-karts? No. Yeah, we used to do that when I was a kid. You just get like you buy the frame, then you put some 2x4s on the bottom, and then you pull a lawnmower motor and you hook it up.
Goes.
Yeah, and that's what the original go-karts were back then. What we did, original go-karts, that's what we used to do. But the same thing, it's like, this was made to mow lawns, and you can make it do...
Dave's getting a little screen time.
Yeah. What up, Dave? You can make it do whatever you need it to do, but you have to, when going into it, you have to, you can't just expect this, okay, I bought a lawnmower, and now it's going to be my go-kart. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's the problem is, like, I think a lot of people, when they buy Infusion stuff, don't know if it's a lawnmower or a go-kart or a Corvette or...
Because they don't even know what they want to do with it.
Yeah, they're not clear on where or how they're going to drive it or who's going to drive it or that it needs driving sometimes.
Which is why I say, like, we confuse tactics with strategy. Meaning, like,
full
short-term,
circle,
can it
full
do
circle,
this, can it do this one thing? Yeah. Just, you said tie it up in a bow, and I was like, well, we got to work.
They call that a callback, yeah.
You gotta, you gotta differentiate between where are you trying to go versus what particular, like the Everest analogy. We're going to the top of Everest? Well, that's a different question than are we going to step with our left foot or with our right foot?
Right.
So, anyway.
This is great.
I think it's a great conversation. I think it's a great one.
But more important than what we think is what you think, viewer.
What do you think? We're going to wait.
It's probably us, right?
No, I think that's Jason. If he was on. Oh, we got two. We just got to keep asking questions to the viewers, and then more people will show up.
Oh, we get to say viewers plural.
Yeah, viewers. Viewers. Yeah, what do you think? We are legitimately interested. We have no way of you telling us what you think yet, but we will soon.
Sure we do, don't we? Can't you? Oh, it's not Facebook Live. What channel are we on?
You can on YouTube, and in fact, some of those comments should come through here, I think.
Technology's tough, man.
I know, it really is. Yeah, if you're watching and you do, what do you think about that particular question? Just drop it into the comments. I've got it here.
You guys check your phones. I'll just keep getting wasted off of one freaking cocktail. What did I say? Edited.
Yeah.
Reddit and edited it.
Reddit and edited it.
Hadn't edited it?
Reddit and edited it.
I read it and edited it. Read it and edited it.
They actually flows very good.
Yeah, dude.
It's not,
Feels
hard
good.
To say, but when
Read
you
it and
say
edited it.
Read and edited it.
That should be a song. Legitimately, that should be like a rap song. Read it and edited it.
Read it and edited it. Classic.
That's pretty awesome.
Look out for that blog post coming to you next Monday from guest author Brett with one lonely T. Martineau.
B with one lonely Rhett.
Yeah,
apparently. He is totally drunk right now. So, blog post coming to the Monkeypod blog. Lots of cool stuff. By the way, I don't know if you guys have seen, you wouldn't have because I haven't told anybody, but I totally redesigned my website too. So it's actually got a decent picture of my face on it, which is fun. But yeah, by the way, you can check this out. This pod, I told the guys earlier in the episode, I don't know if you guys have gone back to see that, but dudelunch.com.
Why would they go back while we are still live?
No, that's my point.
I do that sometimes.
Although, if somebody in the future joins and starts watching only at this point, then they could go back.
For you.
For you, future viewer.
Oh, we got 3. Okay, by the way,
Viral. We're
Greg,
viral.
Spreading.
Greg
Slow it down.
Greg absolutely wins the contest for popularity because I did it, and after 30 minutes, nobody had joined at all. And Greg, we're just leeching off of. Speaking of
Guys,
of
I
those
don't
fish,
audience.
those fish,
Listen,
you're
listen,
the whale
listen,
shark.
listen.
And we're the little remoras.
We don't.
The minnows.
I refuse to accept acknowledgement or praise for 3. we're talking about, we're in the margin of error. A 0 to 3 comparison is not. That's not a triumph.
We do appreciate all 3 of you, though.
That's true.
Even though 2 of you just dropped out, we do appreciate all 3 of you.
This was fun.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. Dudelunch.com. You can check us out on YouTube.
I don't even miss Mike.
You know you can check us out on YouTube because you're there. We're also on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Pocket Casts.
You're just making them up now.
I don't know what those ones are, but I know that we're on them. Gatsby is not dying over there. All is well. You can also check us out, anchor.fm/dudelunch. If you have questions or anything that you think would be fun for us to talk about, you can leave us audio messages. If you go to anchor.fm/dudelunch. Also, if you feel so inclined, you can give us donations on anchor.fm/dudelunch. So do that. Maybe pay for our lunch next time.
No, not donations. Sponsorships.
Sponsorships. I apologize.
Talking to you.
Cutwater, Spirit Airlines. We're looking for all of you guys. So,
Spirit.
yeah, Spirit Airlines for sure. It's going to be like they're playing the long game in their sponsorship.
They're like, we'll turn these guys
we're gonna
around.
turn these guys around.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Dare you?
Maybe that's our new jam. We just talk shit about brands until come at me,
We go to the
Spirit.
shittiest brands and say, hey, can you flip us?
It's like the there's a guy. We'll close on this. Which there's a guy. I think his name's Dan. His last name's Crowder. I just know it's louder with Crowder. And Steven Crowder.
Yeah.
He's the troll of all
my mind.
trolls.
Yeah.
Yeah, change my mind. Goes on college campuses, puts up the most ridiculous statements and says, change my mind. Like, rape culture is not a thing. And like, white privilege is not a
Wow.
thing. And all this, like, really, really inflammatory stuff. There are only 2 genders. Change my mind. Anyway, so that could be our
Okay.
thing. We'll put a sign on the front of the table that says, Spirit Airlines, change our minds about your baggage policy.
About all your policies.
About all your policies, yeah. Anyway, thanks everybody for joining. We will see you all at some undetermined point in the future. Peace.
Later.
Mike.